If you clicked on this video, it's likely you've been scrolling for a while, trying to figure out how to get started on your first ever game project, and believe me, I've been there. But by the end of this video, I want you to stop scrolling, get on your computer, and make your first game. I've been programming games for about 2 or 3 years, and I was in the exact same boat. I remember scrolling through for hours just trying to figure out what game engine to start in. But I'm just going to tell you what you need to do to get started so that you can stop scrolling and start making your first ever game. Starting off, let's go ahead and talk about game engines. If you don't know what a game engine is, it is where all of your art, all of your animations, all of your code come together in one place in order to make your game. So you're going to be using a lot of other software outside this game engine, but ultimately everything comes together within this game engine to make a game. There's some very beginner level ones, like Scratch, for example, is a huge one that you might have used already. And then there's engines like Unity and Unreal, which are made for making actual huge game projects. If you want to eventually start making big game projects and don't want to be really limited into certain areas and you just want to make cool things, I think there's only 3 game engines that I would probably consider starting out with, and that is going to be Unity, Unreal, and Godot. So let's talk about each one of those really quick. Unity has been in the game development scene for a long time. The majority of like mobile games and stuff that you play on your phone are made with Unity. The majority of VR games are made with Unity, and a bunch of 3D PC and console games are also made with Unity. Where Unity really excels in is its 2D support, and with how optimized it runs right out of the box, you really don't have to worry too much about your game lagging other people's computers down. Now let's talk about Unreal. This is my personal favorite engine and the one I use every single day, and where it tends to shine is in 3D applications. Right off the bat, it is going to be a lot more taxing than engines like Unity or Godot, but with that, you can achieve a level of realism in Unreal that is just unmatched by any other game engine. Don't get me wrong, you can make Unity games look really good and Godot games look really good, but the amount of resources that Unreal's putting into things like lighting, animation, and just really giving you tools to power these realistic scenes makes Unreal really good for these 3D games. And lastly, we have Godot, and Godot's a lot newer to the scene and shares a lot of similarities, I would say, with Unity. It has really good 2D support. I know its 3D's been getting a lot better as well, and the main advantage to Godot is it is completely open source, so you will never owe anyone a single dollar no matter how much you make. And so now you might be really thinking, what engine do I use? And I'm going to give you that answer. Use Unity for now. Hear me out now. I don't want you to get overly caught up in how to choose the right game engine right now. You just need to start learning how to make games. The fact is, most of these skills between one game engine to another are transferable, so it's not going to be like you're committing to Unity for the rest of your life. At most, you should be committing to Unity for maybe a month or 2. What you need to do right now is stop worrying and start committing, so let's commit to Unity and start with your first ever game project. What should that first game project be, you might ask? And I have an answer for that for you as well. We need to start small. I'm assuming that you guys have minimal programming experience and minimal game engine experience, and if you don't have minimal, then that's great. You're just going to excel a lot quicker. But no matter your skill level, I want you to start with this level of project. Choose an incredibly simple game. I'm talking as simple as you can think of. 2 great examples I have are the Google Dinosaur game and Pong. These are 2 insanely simple games. The Google Dinosaur game is just an endless 2D runner where you can jump and crouch to avoid obstacles. And then Pong is literally just 2 paddles. You get a very simple AI for the other paddle, and there's a ball that moves left and right and a score counter. Now, I know you might be thinking, this seems extremely basic, and I know, but trust me, you do not want to start off with something too complex and give up immediately. So please start with something this level. Even if you think you know what you're doing, maybe you'll just get it done super quick. But in the description, I've gone ahead and linked a tutorial on how to make Pong and a tutorial on how to make the Google Dinosaur game in Unity. No matter your programming experience, these should be 2 relatively easy projects for you to complete within a few hours. You're definitely going to get stuck. You're definitely going to be banging your head against your desk for a little bit, but once you get that done, you should be so proud of yourself. I remember the first time I got a cube moving left to right, I was like, oh my gosh, it was so mind-blowing, and you are about to get that feeling, and you need to remember that. Now, once you complete that game, I don't want you to just go off and make your dream game. In fact, I want you to do the other games. So if you made the Google Dinosaur game, I want you to make Pong, and vice versa. If you made Pong, I want you to make the Google Dinosaur game. But instead of watching through the tutorial and following it step by step by step, I want you to try and do it without a tutorial. Why, you might ask? Because I don't want you to get stuck in this thing called tutorial heck. This is a common thing that happens to game developers where they develop an over-reliance on tutorials. And people will get caught in here for years, and pretty much if there's not a tutorial about it, they just haven't figured out how to do it. So as soon as possible, you need to start learning how to solve these problems yourself. I've also linked the Unity code documentation. Try and rely on that. Try to learn. You don't just want to copy tutorials step by step, or else you're not going to learn anything. Even though you think you're programming, you're not. You're just copying and pasting someone else's work. So try and make this game, but don't use a tutorial until you get stuck. Once you get stuck, open up the tutorial, get yourself unstuck, and proceed forward. But what I want you to focus on more than anything is getting away from that tutorial and trying to figure this out yourself. That's why you're doing a game at the exact same complexity level. And once you've completed that, you should have kind of some code that you did all on your own, and then some code that you kind of took from the tutorial. And that's good. That's what every project is. That's what my projects are. I take stuff from tutorials all the time, but you've now learned how to work your problem solving in with someone else's problem solving. And that is a super valuable skill. And so the next thing I want you to do is add a twist to the game. I want you to do something that makes it your own. For example, I did this exercise back a long time ago. And when I was making Pong, I ended up just making it to where I could turn the paddles using the A and D keys. Then I added some power-ups that like sped up the game speed. I went in, I tweaked some colors, and I really made it like my own Pong. And at that point, guess what? You've made your own game. You didn't just copy a tutorial, you have actually made something all on your own and made it unique. I went ahead and linked the Discord community for the current game that I'm working on, Suck It Up, in the description below. It is not only a community for our game, but it's also a game development community. So if you want to start meeting some friends or talk to me and some of the other devs, be sure to check that out. Anywho, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.